The dusty old car rattled as it pulled into the school parking lot, drawing a wave of snickers and whispers from the crowd. Sarah knew exactly what they were thinking, that she didn't belong, that she was chasing dreams too big for someone with so little. Her car, with its peeling paint and cracked windows, seemed like a symbol of everything she lacked. Still, she smiled, parking between shiny new sports cars and luxury SUVs as if she were no different. She had a plan, and it had nothing to do with appearances. Every morning, Sarah drove that same battered car to meetings, to side jobs, to long nights at the library where she mapped out ideas no one else believed in. They laughed, they doubted, they even mocked her, but she kept going. She knew that success wasn't about looking the part. It was about grit, about seeing possibility where others saw a dead end. Behind the scenes, something extraordinary was happening. While everyone else was busy judging, Sarah was quietly building something that would change her life forever. A project that started small, but grew bigger with every risk she took, every door she knocked on, and every late night she spent working when no one was watching. Years later, the same people who once laughed would watch in disbelief as Sarah's old car rolled up the long, winding driveway of a sprawling $1 billion mansion, a place so grand it barely seemed real. But how did she do it? How did someone with nothing but a broken-down car and a fierce dream climb all the way to unimaginable wealth? Stay tuned, because Sarah's incredible journey is just getting started. Sarah didn't grow up with much. In a small town where dreams often got buried under bills and broken promises, she learned early that if she wanted something bigger, she'd have to build it herself. Her parents worked hard but struggled to make ends meet, and the old car she drove was a hand-me-down from an uncle who couldn't afford to fix it. While others spent their weekends partying or shopping for the latest trends, Sarah was glued to her laptop, teaching herself everything she could about business, finance, and technology. The idea that would change everything started one night when she was sitting in that same old car, using the free Wi-Fi from a nearby coffee shop because she couldn't afford internet at home. It was a small idea at first, a simple app that solved a problem nobody else seemed to notice. But Sarah saw its potential. She believed it could be big, even when others told her she was wasting her time. The early days were rough. Investors didn't take her seriously. Some laughed openly when she showed up to meetings in her beat-up car and second-hand clothes. Doors were slammed in her face. Emails went unanswered. But every no just pushed her to work harder. She took every rejection as a challenge, a chance to sharpen her pitch, polish her idea, and prove them all wrong. Still, the odds were stacked against her. No connections, no money, and no fancy degrees to flash around. Just a dream, a plan, and a stubborn heart that refused to quit. And while most people only saw the girl with the old car, struggling to fit in, Sarah was quietly laying the foundation for something no one could ignore. Something that would soon turn their laughter into pure disbelief. As Sarah pushed forward, the challenges only grew tougher. Every step toward building her dream felt like running uphill with weights tied to her ankles. There were nights she thought about giving up, nights when the loneliness of chasing a vision no one else could see almost broke her. Friends drifted away, tired of hearing about business plans and late-night coding sessions. Even her family, though supportive, started to worry that she was chasing something impossible. They didn't say it outright, but she could see it in their eyes. The fear that she was setting herself up for heartbreak. Meanwhile, the competition was fierce. Big companies with endless resources caught wind of ideas similar to Sarah's and started racing to the market. They had million-dollar marketing teams and investors willing to write blank checks. Sarah had little more than her savings from odd jobs and the determination to work through every setback. It wasn't just about proving people wrong anymore. It was about survival, about making sure all the sacrifices weren't for nothing. On top of it all, Sarah faced betrayal from someone she trusted, a mentor who had once promised to help guide her, but instead used her ideas to pitch his own version to investors. She knew that success wasn't just about having the best product, it was about resilience, timing, and the courage to stay standing when everything around you begged you to sit down. With her old car as her daily reminder of how far she still had to go, Sarah tightened her focus. The finish line wasn't in sight yet, but she wasn't about to stop now. Months turned into years, and Sarah's life became a never-ending balancing act. Every day brought new problems to solve, new doubts to fight off. The old car she drove became a symbol in her own mind, a reminder of where she came from and how far she still needed to go. Some days, it wouldn't even start without a fight, forcing her to sprint to meetings or miss out on important pitches. She couldn't afford repairs, let alone a new vehicle, but somehow she found a way to keep moving forward. Meanwhile, whispers about Sarah's idea started to spread. Investors who once ignored her were now watching closely, realizing that she was onto something they hadn't seen coming. Competitors began rushing to catch up, but Sarah was always a step ahead, working through the nights, sketching out new strategies while others slept. Every small win made her hungrier, but every setback felt heavier too. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about proving that vision, heart, and hard work could win against power and privilege. As the pressure mounted, Sarah found herself standing at a crossroads. One final pitch, one final shot at securing the backing she needed to turn her project into a real empire. It was her make-or-break moment. Everything she had built, everything she had sacrificed, was leading up to this. And just days before the meeting that could change her life forever, disaster struck. A critical system crashed, threatening to wipe out months of work overnight. With no time, no backup, and no second chances, Sarah faced the greatest test yet. Failure now would mean starting from zero, or worse, giving up the dream completely. But somewhere deep inside, that same stubborn fire that kept her car running all these years refused to die. The real question was, would it be enough? With the system crash threatening to erase everything, Sarah stayed up for 2 straight nights, trying to recover what she could. Her laptop overheated more than once, the screen flickering, files disappearing. Every second felt like sand slipping through her fingers. Just when she thought she had salvaged enough to move forward, a second blow came. The investor she had been counting on pulled out without warning. No explanation, no apology. Just a cold email saying they had decided to go in another direction. It hit her harder than anything before. This wasn't just a minor setback. This was the lifeline she had been holding onto, and it snapped right out of her hands. The dream she had spent years chasing, the business she had built from the ground up, was hanging by a thread. All the rooms she couldn't afford, all the meetings she had crashed just to get a few minutes of someone's time, all the rejection, all the sacrifice, it felt like it was about to come crashing down around her. But then came something Sarah never expected. A rival, someone who had once tried to shut her out of the industry, reached out with an offer. Not out of kindness, but because they saw an opportunity. They wanted to buy her out. Fast cash, quick exit. It would mean giving up everything she built. Her company, her name, her dream. Everyone around her advised her to take the deal. After everything she had been through, after so much loss and exhaustion, the easy way out had never looked so tempting. But deep down, Sarah knew that taking the money would mean surrendering the very thing she fought so hard to protect. With the clock ticking, the stakes higher than ever, and everything she ever wanted hanging in the balance, Sarah stood at the edge of the biggest decision of her life. Sarah stood alone in her small apartment, staring at the buyout contract spread across the kitchen table. The numbers were life-changing. More money than she had ever seen, more than enough to buy a new car, a new house, a whole new life. But as she looked around the room, filled with years of notebooks, prototypes, and late-night dreams, she realized something bigger was at stake. If she signed, she would be selling more than just a company. She would be selling the belief that someone like her could win without selling out. With a deep breath, Sarah turned down the offer. No cash out, no shortcuts. Instead, she gathered the last bit of courage she had and pitched her idea one final time, not to investors, but to the world. She launched her product online herself, pouring everything she had into a grassroots campaign. It was a massive risk. She had no fancy ads, no big names backing her, just the raw power of her story and a solution people genuinely needed. At first, it was slow. A few downloads, a few shares. But then something incredible happened. People related to her journey, the girl with the old car, the girl nobody believed in. Her story spread like wildfire, not just because of the app, but because people believed in her asterisk. Overnight, she wasn't just building a company, she was starting a movement. Orders exploded. Investors who once ignored her now begged for meetings. Media outlets raced to cover the story of the girl who turned rejection into a billion-dollar empire. And as Sarah drove her same old, rattling car up the driveway of the $1 billion mansion she had earned, she smiled, not because of the money, but because she had stayed true to herself. But just as everything seemed perfect, Sarah opened a letter waiting for her at the new house, a lawsuit from the mentor who had once betrayed her, now claiming ownership of her idea. The battle, it seemed, was far from over. The lawsuit hit Sarah hard. After everything she had fought for, it felt like one final attempt to drag her down. But this time, she wasn't the underdog with no resources or support. She had built a strong team around her, people who believed in her vision just as much as she did. With the best lawyers by her side, Sarah fought back, not out of anger, but out of a deep sense of pride in everything she had created. The legal battle dragged on for months, but when the final judgment came, it was clear. The court recognized Sarah as the rightful founder and owner of her company. She hadn't just defended her business, she had defended her story, her journey, and every lesson learned along the way. The victory felt different this time. It wasn't about proving people wrong anymore. It was about proving to herself that staying true to her values was worth it, no matter how long the road. In the end, Sarah kept her old car. She had enough money now to buy any luxury car she wanted, but that dented, rusty vehicle had carried her through the hardest chapters of her life. It was more than just a car. It was a reminder that success isn't measured by what you start with, but by how far you're willing to go. Standing on the balcony of her mansion, looking out over the horizon, Sarah knew the journey wasn't really about the $1 billion, the business, or even the mansion. It was about the belief that no matter how small you start, no matter how loud the laughter, with heart, hard work, and unshakable faith, you can build a future bigger than anyone ever imagined. And sometimes, it's the ones who laugh first who end up clapping the loudest.